Welcome to another conversation on Offsite Dirt. Today I have Mark Wille, and we're talking about passive house benefits and the relationship of how they're so similar, if not intertwined, with offsite construction. When you look at passive house, Mark, we see all these amazing benefits, but in general, it's all about healthy living.
It really is, and it all begins with process. So the similarities between the offsite world and the passive house world are like parallel lines. We think and behave along the same measure, so the more we could connect on that, the performance of these buildings are going to be delivered again and again, replicatable.
You know, it's interesting, every time I have these conversations with you, I want to be in a passive house, but I also am so passionate about the offsite construction arena. And I particularly love the quality. And I love the way of doing something over and over again. And there's no reason why we can't implement these strategies for having a passive house. When you look at passive house and you talk about process, what are some of the things that actually makes it a passive house, consideration?
Sure. So the correlation of the details. So it's defining what's going to happen and the sequence to get there. So let's face it, a building is a six-sided box. So from the factory and from the modeling side of passive house, we're looking at all those layers, the control layers, the sequencing, from outside in to inside out, and how they come together. The joy of the offsite world is it's done like an automobile. We need to protect the weather from the outside. We need to protect the people on the inside. Passive house is the same. It's making sure the environment doesn't affect the occupants, right? The people, better word than occupants. And the factory line is ensuring that precision throughout for all those layers. So symbiotic, we might call it.
And it's interesting that we have this conversation because we're seeing it evolve. We're seeing the industry for passive house evolve. We're seeing offsite construction in the volumetric, in the panelization. We're seeing all of these industries finally being able to not only having the conversation, but we're actually seeing output of product, plentiful of it, right?
Big time, right? We've watched the evolution of the 2x4 wall, the 2x6 wall, the 2x8 wall, or maybe a 2x6 that becomes a 2x8 or a 2x10 because of that insulation. So when you look at that layering down the line of the studs and the exterior insulation and that finished drywall, it's buttoned up so well because we don't go backwards in offsite. We go down the line. And passive house is the same way. There's no backing up. It's moving it forward with a pH.
Of course. Where would we be without that? The great thing when I listen to the conversation and we talk about, measuring energy that goes in and we're measuring energy that goes out. And then we're also talking about climate control. Can you give us an example of what that really means?
Sure. So when we're focusing on that wall first, now we're able to adjust the design of the mechanical so that you don't have an oversized system that's turning on and turning off. You're controlling continuous ventilation. And then if you happen to be in a cold climate, we add heating as needed. If you happen to be in a hot climate, you add cooling as needed. Or if you're in the Midwest, that changes every day. So those systems adjust for it, right? And a passive house is saying, okay, let's minimize what we need for heating and cooling, but let's always build tight. Let's always ventilate right. And offsite is the same thing. You're going to add a mechanical system. So let's size it accordingly. And let's face it, not all the systems we need are even here. They don't even exist because we're not used to a system that requires so little energy. But it's coming, and it's coming fast. So maybe we're learning a little bit from the boating world, right? Or the RV world, or the systems that are using low voltage because that requirement is decreasing. I think it's just fabulous.
I do too, and I think it's great that there are systems that actually can help us live better, and we can have the ventilation. And why are we not putting in water filtration systems? And why are we not considering these things now? If it's going down a factory line and we have this assembly, why can't we just make these small little steps to help these buildings breathe and live longer? I mean, really, when we look at the way that the house has evolved and we look at what's happening in Europe, and these homes, the European homes have been around since the 1500 and 1600, and then they've already started with their factory lines and their assembly. A lot of them, that's kind of how they built. So we're evolving in the United States, right? Let's just evolve a little bit to the higher level of quality of what we can do in construction. Don't you agree?
That's exactly it. So when we pick our cars, we pick them on style, right? So let's pick our buildings on style. We don't actually ask the people that are buying it if they want a place to sit. We already provide that, right? We don't actually ask them if they want a window. We already provide it. Well, systems are integral, right? They always have heating and cooling in vehicles now. And guess what? They're also in our chairs. They're in our steering wheel. Our buildings is the same. We know where to put it. So if we take the core of that building and we handle the water, we handle the ventilation, we handle the heating and cooling, we put it there efficiently, now all that other space, that's to enjoy. That's to live our lives.
I love that. And I love the 12 benefits for Passive House. And I love that they're so thought through and they're just common ways we want to live.
Hey, these are all there. So I think one of our conversations will end up being the 2,000 benefits of Offsite.
I would love that. Let's get there.
Amen.
All right. Well, we're marrying these ideas. Hopefully soon we'll be marrying a factory that can reflect that.
I think countless. Let's copy the ones that are working and invent those we need.
Amen. We're both singing the same song here. I love it. Well, thank you for being here for another edition of our Offsite Dirt, Mark.
This is an incredible platform for everyone to enjoy.
Let's keep them educated. Let's keep the conversation going, and hopefully let's live our best life.
With green steps forward.
And there you go. There's the dirt.